Okay, we're back. We are back for lecture two on chapter 12. I don't think I've talked sufficiently enough. We only have three more lessons. Like this, we're already a third of the way, the antepenultimate lesson for this class. It's amazing. We've come so far. Okay, so in the last lecture, we talked a lot about nouns. It was fascinating. No, nouns, sorry, numbers. We talked a lot about numbers, and it was fascinating. It was really great. But so now we're going to kind of get back to our usual sorts of roots. We got some big ones. We've got some great ones in this unit. So here we go. The first that we're going to learn today is one of the most common Greek verbs, which is the verb agein, which means to lead. So this gives us, believe it or not, the stem, not og, but agog. I think there's many other ways that we see this in English. It becomes like a smaller kind of like subword in many words, but I think this is a really useful way of looking at it. So the stem agog is often put, as we know, behind other words, and when you see a word ending in agog, often ending with a ue, so agog is how you pronounce it. It just means leader, right? So we talk today in our current moment in the world, we talk about demagogues a lot. So here's demagogue. Technically, that just means demos means people. So a demagogue, the word is very kind of anodyne. It just means leader of the people. For us now, though, the word demagogue has come to mean kind of like a almost like I don't want to say cult leader. I feel like that's too strong, but it's like a demagogue will use his leadership of the people to do things that may be extra constitutional, and it's speaking to kind of a relationship between the leader and the people that's maybe not the most healthy relationship. I kind of feel like that's how we see it in the world today. But anyhow, technically it just means leader of the people, but we have put this kind of negative spin on it. Probably because we just have so many other words that mean leader of people, right? And we don't call our people demos, really, anymore outside of democracy. Okay, anyhow. So a pedagogue is a teacher of children. At the very end of this lesson today, we're going to see the word ped means children. So pedagogue is like a teacher. This is another one though. And so pedagogy is kind of the practice of teaching. It's like teaching lessons. It's your approach to teaching. What's your pedagogical style? So it's kind of just a fancy way of saying teaching, though pedagogue kind of too has taken on a sort of derogatory meaning. It's associated with pedantry and kind of old-fashioned, style of teaching. But originally just means teacher of children. A synagogue, the word syn here is that prefix meaning together. So a synagogue is the place that leads people together. That's kind of the original meaning. Synagogos was actually, just a Greek word that was eventually adopted to describe the particular place of worship for the Jewish people. So synagogue, and so lithogogue is, I think, such an interesting word. Next, at the very last lesson of this book is on medical terminology, but lithogogue is kind of useful because what that means is it's stone leader, and it's referring to a substance that's supposed to help lead like kidney stones or gallbladder stones out of your body. So the actual technical ways we do that now using modern medicine, it's not a doctor, I don't think, would ever say, here's a lithogogue and give you some sort of medicine. But before kind of the rise of Western medicine, a lithogogue would be like a herb or something that people thought would break up stones and lead them out of your body so you weren't in excruciating pain. So that's what a lithogogue is. And then a hemagogue, hema here is the word for blood. And so a hemagogue is something that leads blood out of your body. So the process of bloodletting, which if you've ever seen a movie, about like from Jane Austen or whatever, you've seen bloodletting, that process would be called hemagogic. It leads blood out of the body. Again, I don't think it's used in the medical industry today, but that could change. It's crazy times. So there you go. And then a psychagogue, psych here is soul. A psychagogue is someone who either leads souls up from the underworld, so some sort of wizard or witch. And this is another way of just someone who can lead your soul out of your body. So it's kind of a magic-y kind of word is what a psychagogue would be. So these are all kind of more old-fashioned words to describe kind of more old-fashioned actions, things we used to do before the internet. So that's Ago. And next we have agon. Now, believe it or not, this is a radically different word. See that big omega here. It really keeps it separate from agen. But so agon is the noun that means struggle or contest. And so any sort of matchup between people in an athletic or competitive sort of way would be called an agon. And for the ancient Greeks, it was not necessarily associated with agony. But oh wow, I put the wrong stem. The stem here should be agon. I will fix this before I post this PowerPoint slide, but the stem is just AGON. It's where we get the word agony and agonize. So it's not, but like I said, for the ancient Greeks, it didn't have that negative sense that usually we think of when we think of agony and agonizing. And you can see that. So we actually have in English the word agon to refer to competition. You could use just that word, but we also have it in the word protagonist and antagonist. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more at the end of this entire lecture, at the end of lecture 3, when we talk about Greek tragedy terms. But a protagonist is the word protos, which means first, and then agonos here means actor. So the protagonist was the first actor to kind of appear in a Greek tragedy. Like we'll talk about this again. The antagonist is anti-agon, so the person who comes up against the protagonist. So that's very value neutral. It's not bad. Well, I mean, we know the protagonist and antagonist are kind of good or bad, but the sense of agon there is just a kind of competition of words. So very kind of neutral. So our third word is arcane. And so I feel like, I don't know why I feel like we've talked about this before. Maybe it's because I talk about it all the time. When you come take Greek with me next year, it's a complicated Greek word because it means both to begin and to rule, which for us, and I think even for the ancient Greeks, was considered two very different actions. The word begin is the original sense of arcane. That's where we see it in the earliest literature. And rule is a more secondary, but still incredibly common use of this word in ancient Greek literature. So, but we, I think in English, mainly use the stem arche to indicate rule. However, we at some point learned the word archaios, which is related to arcane. And this is where we get the word archaeology, which is the study of beginnings, the study of old things, but mainly the study of beginnings. So it's all kind of wrapped up in mystery and fun. But for this lecture, what we are focusing on is the concept of ruling. And so when you see monarchy, oligarchy, matriarchy, that's arche with the sense of rule. Monarchy is the rule of one, oligarchy is the rule of few. So oligos in Greek means few. So there you go, oligarchy, meaning of few. Matriarchy, mater, meaning of would be the rule of mothers. So heptarchy I'm including it here not because I think you should know this word, but because our book brings it up quite a bit. Heptarchy is that hept, which means seven, and then arche. So technically it means the rule of seven. The only place where I've ever seen this used is to describe the Anglo-Saxon kingdom before the Norman invasion in 1066. So at some point in England, before everything kind of got centralized, there were 7 kings. And so it was called a heptarchy. But can you imagine there's probably only like 8 people who would have ever described that at that point. So it's just a very specific term, meaning rule of seven. But if you're ever in like a club or something where there's 7 distinct rulers, now you know you could call it a heptarchy. And it's always good to learn about, Anglo-Saxon history or whatever. So hierarchy, we are actually learning the word hieros in this unit pretty quickly. Hieros means holy. So hierarchy, believe it or not, means the rule of the holy, rule of the sacred. It was originally the way the Roman Catholic Church oriented itself, and it was the rule of, holy people. And so that's where we get hierarchy. And of course, now it has no sense of holiness. It's actually considered very annoying, right? But that's the original. And then archangel, so that would be the beginning. Archangel. Well, I guess archangel is I actually don't know that. Maybe that's something to think about. Archangel, I thought it was the first angel, but now I'm thinking it must be the ruling angel. I just don't know enough about angels. So yeah, we'll figure that out someday. But it's one or the other. So we do know that, right? It's either ruling angel or first angel. And then anarchy is a great one. So anarchy is the Greek prefix ana, which we learned a while ago. Here it means kind of apart from. So anarchy literally just means apart from rule. And so hence the show Sons of Anarchy, which for a brief moment was way more popular than anyone ever thought. Okay, so here is the word athlon. Believe it or not, this word means athletic contest. So, and as a result, we have the stem athl, which leads to words like athlete, athletic, or triathlon, right? So this is pretty much just straight from the Greek. We use the same exact word for athletes and athletic games as the Greeks did. So good for us. Like what a great thing. And here, this would be a fun point. If I had been a little more organized, we could have looked at, I mean, I know what a triathlon is. A pentathlon is a thing, but that might be like a fun exam question or something. Like add a number to athlon and then throw in like, hen decathlon. Then you need 11 sports. So, no, that sounds really boring. But anyhow, you get it. So that's where we get this. Then we have the word glufane, which come take Greek with me next year. We can talk. The word gluphane in Greek means to carve. A very similar word exists in Latin, but it means something very dirty, which is it's just very funny to me. But I can't put that on video. So gluphane means to carve, and this is where we get the word glyph. So the word glyph is a word, right? Like we have glyph in English to refer to a carving. Mainly, I think you've probably seen this with either petroglyph if you've walked through Nevada, if you've driven like from eastern Nevada into California, there's places where you can see petroglyphs, like from ancient Native American peoples, which is just rock carvings, right? And then hieroglyph. These are associated because they come from ancient Egypt. This hieroglyph here is the hiero is the same higher that you see in hierarchy. So hierarchy is rule of the holy. Hieroglyph is glyph of the holy, carving of the holy. That's how they were originally called when they were first called something. And so that's where we get this. There's other glyphs out there. Geoglyph, I think, is another one. I think it's the Natsos lines or something that are just big carvings into the earth. So that's pretty neat. All right, so this word I obviously thought this word is so silly because I messed up this. Instead of putting a slash, I put a C. So this word gonia is the Greek word, it's a noun for the word angle. And this is where we get all of those gons that I was talking about when we were doing the numbers, pentagon, hexagon, dodecahedron, right? And so, though this word in Greek means angle, it usually refers to now that kind of flat face on solids. So, like, the pentagon, the gon are those five flat surfaces that are outside. So, that's what the gon is doing, even though it technically means angle. But now in medical terminology, gonion does kind of mean angle. I know that gonion in particular is used to describe the angle of the jaw. And so that's just gonion is angle of the jaw, and then a goniometer would be something to measure the angle of the jaw. So in anatomy and other perhaps sciences, it does just mean angle, and then diagonal is just something that goes straight through. So, maybe it is more useful than I originally thought. But now you know it. You can decide for yourself if it's useful or not. Now, this one, I guess, what is going on? I must have just been using the wrong, anyhow. Um, I love this word because on the one hand, it seems very boring, like gonia, but then you realize it's amazing. So, hedra is a noun meaning seat or chair. It gives us the stem hedr. And so, dodecahedron? Dodeca means 12. I don't know what the header is doing here. I'm tempted to like stop and look at that. Um, yeah, give me just 1 second. It will be so short. Give me just a second. Okay, so I think I kind of confused. I wouldn't say confused. They're kind of doing the same thing. When we say something like dodecahedron, the word hedron doesn't have the sense of seat or chair, but surface. So when we were talking about gonia, I was talking about pentagon, and the gon is referring to the surface. But and that's accurate, right? But the word hedra is doing that word. So on a dodecahedron, you have 12 kind of faces or surfaces. So that's what the hedron is doing there. So that's not the best part of this word, obviously, because I forgot it almost as soon as I put it in my brain. But the word cathedral comes from hedra. So cathedral means katahedron, which means down from the seat or down the seat. But this is what was used to refer to cathedrals, which were the seat of religious authority. And because cathedral for us, it kind of just means this big, beautiful building. But for ancient peoples and for other peoples, cathedra just meant chair. We have the phrase ex cathedra. Well, I don't know if we have it, but people have used the phrase ex cathedra, which so the Pope or something could have a statement ex cathedra from the throne, from the chair, so from a position of authority. And because the word cathedra was used as chair so frequently, it came to mean the word chair. So the word chair is actually just a very distant relative of hedra, which is lovely, I think. So I'm glad we got to see that word. All right, so here's Hieros. I've talked about this a couple of times with hierarchy and with the other one that had hieroglyphs. So hieros is actually an incredibly common adjective in Greek. If any of you have ever taken my myth class, or if you want to take it in the fall, because I'm teaching it again, we talk about what's called the hieros gamos, which is the holy marriage. It describes the marriage of people like Zeus and Hera, or Kronos and Rhea. Kronos and Rhea, yeah, yeah. So it's basically just like the marriage of holy figures. Here in this picture, this is Adam and Eve. And I think this is here. Oh, yeah. And the reason I'm including this picture is because the other word that starts with hero is the name Hieronymus, which ultimately becomes the word Jerome. But I think most of us would see Hieronymus and think of the artist Hieronymus Bosch. And we see here his Garden of Earthly Delights. I mean, he's an amazing artist. And in this particular picture, he's got Adam and Eve. And that could be considered a holy marriage as well. So it all kind of comes together. So it's a great word. Okay, so next is the word holos, which is an adjective meaning whole or entire. But fascinatingly, the word holos from Greek, Hol, is not related at all to the word whole, Whol. Whol has a Germanic origin. It is completely separate from the Greek, and no one is even speculating about a shared Indo-European. Like it's just crazy that it means the same thing. Maybe it's because of the way your mouth does. I have no idea, but they're two different words. And obviously we use the word whole, Whole, in a lot of ways, but we use the word HOL, the Greek word, in many ways as well, including holistic, which, who doesn't know what holistic is, right? So hologram, which if you have your driver's license, they now have those now. They probably had them for a million years, but they seem new and fancy to me. Hologram is a picture of a whole thing, right? But it's like a little picture. Holograph. Oh, so holograph is when a text. So let's say you took Mark Twain, and if you had a written version, a handwritten version of like all of Tom Sawyer, that would be called a holograph of Tom Sawyer, a whole document written by the hand of the author. Holocene is, I've been looking into this because I'm a scholar, I'm an academic. But so Holocene is our current period. It's like our current geologic age, right? So it's not, but my impression had been that we had switched to the Anthropocene, but no, people are still, I guess we're still officially in the Holocene. The very funny thing to me is the word Holocene means wholly new. Holo means whole, and the CENE is from kainos, which means new. So our era is just the wholly new. It has nothing to do with rocks. It has nothing to do with, iron or anything. It's just wholly new, which is once you know that, you understand that the word Anthropocene is just a terrible word because it's just I mean, to me, it's just silly to say the scene, they're not using it correctly. Anthropos is fine. Anyhow, so Holocene, it's our current period. So the word Holocaust, which we of course now used to describe this specific horrifying moment in history. But the word Holocaust is actually much older than mid 20th century and it means wholly burned. Kaust means burn here, like the word caustic. So Holocaust just means wholly burned. It's a terrible word, but it's described terrible things. And then Catholic. So remember with cathedral, we had kata. hedra. So Catholic is very similar. It's that kata in front of holos. So Catholic means entire. So I have a little c here because it can just be an adjective meaning complete, entire, or whole. But of course, you have your Catholic Church. So there you go. So that's holos. Here is legging. And so I haven't been able to talk to you guys too much about this just because we don't meet in person. We don't have too many opportunities. But so here is a picture of the Oxford English Dictionary, and I just want to impress upon you the gift of being able to use the Oxford English Dictionary online, which is a relatively new phenomenon. I don't know. I mean, it's been in the last 15 years. But when I was a student, we had to go, I actually took a class where we had to go and look at the actual physical copy, which was approximately 20 huge volumes. And you can see here, I mean, here we have five, six, and seven. And by the end of seven, it's only gotten to I. It was a huge, massive text, and the print was so small. So it's just so lovely to have it online. But anyhow, I use this here because the Oxford English Dictionary is kind of a lexicon, and the word lexicon comes from the Greek word legein, which is a verb. Now, so this verb can mean choose, it can speak, and it can mean so many things, to be honest with you. I don't want to lie to you about this. I think it's funny that our book, gave us the word choose as the primary meaning because speak is the more kind of popular meaning, but it also means to read, so choose is fine. So here's where we get our stems, lex or lek. So as I mentioned earlier in the lecture, dyslexia is coming from this. It's the prefix deuce, so bad, and then read, lexia. And then we have eclectic. So eclectic is the sense of choose. Something that's eclectic. I mean, we use it kind of to mean weird now, right? Like weird in a good way. Like, oh, she's so eclectic. I'm pretty sure no one says that about me, but but eclectic used to mean just that you went and chose particular things for yourself. So yeah, that's what that is. Ek is the prefix, and then elect is a very similar word, but obviously we use it completely differently. But when you elect an politician or whatever, you choose them. So that's what that's coming from. You may have also heard the phrase "the elect" as like referring to a group of people, God's elect, and that's the chosen people, right? I mean, it's not the chosen people, but it means people chosen by God. Okay, and so, but then here's a lexicon and lexicographer. So lexicon is just a collection of words that are spoken, right? So usually I would have thought, I like that I'm criticizing my own slide. A dictionary isn't quite a lexicon. A dictionary will, um, I don't know, that'd be an interesting thing to think about. Like a dictionary is one, no, I don't know. I don't know. Never mind, forget I said anything. A lexicon is just like a dictionary. There's a subtle difference, but that's not what this class is about, so it's fine. So lexicon is like a dictionary, and then a lexicographer is a person who writes a lexicon. Yeah. There you go. I wonder if it's like a dictionary defines words using the same language, and a lexicon gives you, anyhow, it's fine. You get it. Look at this cute little kid. This is the stock image, but I'm like, good for this kid. So the Greek word paidos means child. I thought that there was like many more meanings related to ped than we actually are going to be talking about, but I think it's because some of the ped words are like we don't want to talk about them like in this class. So the only words I could come up with for this were pediatrics and pediatrician. These are medicine associated with kids. So orthopedic, I know we talked about this when we talked about orthos, meaning straight, but orthopedic usually originally just meant like straightening out the child rearing, and now of course it has to do with joints or whatever. And so a pedant is someone who talks to you like you're a child, essentially. Yeah, that's going to be what I'm going to go with that. But anyhow, that's what that comes from. And then here is our last word of this particular unit, which is podos, meaning foot. Now, some of you, many of you, I'm assuming, have encountered the debate about the plural of octopus, right? And so here is the root of the debate. Octopus is using this nominative singular form of the word foot, right? So 8 foot, referring to one animal. And so it was very popular for a while to say, well, because this is coming from a Greek noun, And most importantly, this, well, no, no, just because it's coming from a Greek noun. People would say, okay, well, because it's coming from a Greek noun, the post word is, we can't say octopuses. We have to say octopodi because podi is the correct plural version of pus. And so you will hear, even to this day, people saying octopodi rather than octopuses. But here's the thing. This is a third declension noun. Believe it or not, we talked about this last week. Third declension noun in the plural is not an I ending, but an ES ending. So technically, if you were being pedantic, you would say that the plural of octopus is octopodes. But do you hear people saying that? No, because it's ridiculous. So I am not sure what the now agreed upon plural of octopus is, though, because octopuses, podes, are so popular, there's probably an agreed upon form. But the point is, technically it should be octopodes. And now you know that because you know that this is a Greek word coming from a third declension noun, not a second. Anyhow, you're welcome. Octo means eight. We learned that too. So podiatrist, foot doctor, tripod, 3 foot, this sort of thing. Oh, gastropod. That was the word I was going to include here. Some members of the kingdom of living beings are gastropods. So gastro means stomach and pod means foot. And so, yeah, that's how those two go together. All right, I really lost steam with this lecture. It's definitely getting towards the end of the semester. But thank you for coming with me on this journey. In the next lecture, lecture 3, we will just talk about fun stuff. It'll be very random and interesting. So I hope you come back. I'm going to have some water pop up. It's going to be great.